Hello, my name is Mr. Fred Valenzuela, and I'm going to be your child's Algebra 1 teacher this year. A little bit about myself. This is my third year teaching. I've taught previously at Rahway High School and at the Colonia High School, and I taught nothing but freshmen last year at Colonia, so I'm very familiar with the subject of Algebra 1. I grew up in Perth Amboy, and I graduated from Kane University 4 years ago. I like telling the students that I went to Middlesex County College because I want to open up the fact that community colleges are okay to go to and is a good alternative instead of jumping straight to a university. I've also had years substituting. I've substituted for about 4 years prior to getting my first job at teaching. And I come from a family of teachers because my mother teaches second grade students, and my father teaches at an adult school setting. In my class, since we are moving to remote learning, well, first let me talk about what algebra is. Algebra is very important and fundamental, like stepping stone when it comes towards any math that your child might take in the future. Algebra exactly is the math of dealing with symbols and learning to reason symbolically. It involves, including finding variables and working with linear equations and other higher degree equations in order to in order to find formula, in order to interpret symbols, interpret those variables in many different ways. This really branches out into everything going forward. When your child take geometry next year, it's going to be important for them to understand how to find those missing quantities, and obviously this is going to roll right into Algebra 2 when they continue with this. To discuss my class policies, in my classroom, everything will be online. Everything so far, my meetings have been on Google Meet. We record every lessons. I write down my my lessons on a virtual whiteboard, and I share that with the students as well. Everything is posted on Google Classroom, and your students also have me on Remind. And I have a lot of students already emailing me already. For my class, for the grading breakdown, what I expect is 50% is going to go towards tests, which count towards anything like largely cumulative. Quizzes I try to do on a weekly basis, where quizzes are 25%, and they cover about maybe one or two topics that we learn throughout the week. And then homework and classwork have been kind of combined because I've been giving students the leeway to finish whatever classwork they didn't get done in class to finish it at home. And I have time until like the next day to submit it to classroom. What I expect in my classroom, given with this virtual setting, it's not dissimilar to what we do in our classroom. I like to encourage participation in my math classes. So I always try to encourage my students. I'll always call on them to try to answer an example. I always encourage students who love to volunteer. I give them praise when they do. I try to randomly call on them, to try to keep their attention because there's only you can only pay attention to staring at a screen so much before you start to doze off. So I try to get them back into shape. Class rules, as I usually go through them, are I don't allow cell phone usage while in class. I am monitoring what websites the students are on. So just so I ensure that they're not distracted or they're not using any cheating methods online, because unfortunately it is quite easy to look up answers for math online. I try to, as a school-wide policy, I try to have them keep their cameras on at all times. And just overall, I wanted to be respectful. And in the past week that I've had them, my students have been very respectful, especially my freshmen. So I'm very glad for this. For this year, what I believe in for this year, despite how, despite all the circumstances, I truly do think that it is still possible to teach students math, because no matter what the setting is, math is too important of a life skill to pass up for it to be stepped down, for it to be bottled down, watered down at any level. I personally believe that the skills that not every last skill will be translatable to something in real life, but there is enough that you learn in algebra that is going to matter in your life in the future. I always like to say that math is really the science of problem solving. It's because one thing that mathematics teaches us is that if you work towards something, if you're able to identify a problem, if you're able to identify what needs to be done for that problem, come up with a list of steps, and then follow through on that, you can always find any solution. whether it's no solution, more than one solution, however you want to interpret that in a real life analogy. Um, Mathematics will make your children stronger, critical problem solvers, and I truly believe that they're going to walk out of Algebra 1 or walk out of high school a much more critical thinker. And that's just my personal philosophy. I love to encourage students to try to take advantage of me and of the education system as much as they can, because there are teachers out there who definitely do want them to succeed, and we're just waiting for students to want to just take those reins and put in that effort. But I will always try to encourage that effort, even in these circumstances where we're just in a remote learning, and I'll continue to do so when we go hybrid and when we go back in person. So I definitely am looking forward to a very successful year with all my Algebra 1 students. If you have any questions, you can email me at valenzuelaf@dunellenschools.org, or ask your child what their remind is. I want you to you can download the Remind app. This is where I remind them of homework. This is where I get in touch with my students. They should be able to share with you a code. Otherwise, email me and I'll gladly provide you a code for the Remind link so that you can join, and you can join in on the homework stream and the announcements that your children are getting. I look forward to a very successful year. Thank you.